obviously the figures that are out today showed that we were minus 0.2, I think, was the figure. So we're starting this recession that the Bank of England talked about.
Yeah, not a particularly appealing backdrop. We know the public finances are tight off the back of that mini budget and so on. And now it seems that the economy is officially contracting. So between April and June, the economy, all the goods and services, all the transactions that we do, between April and June, the economy increased by 0.2%, just marginally. And between July and September, the third quarter, it fell by 0.2%. What a recession is when you get two successive quarters. So if we contract October, November, December, then we will officially be in recession. And I think most economists think that will happen. Within those numbers, though, the really eye-catching aspect for me was that in that third quarter, our manufacturing sector, the source of so many jobs, well-paid jobs, particularly across the red wall, those very contentious seats politically, that contracted by 2.3%. That's the biggest contraction, the biggest shrinkage of manufacturing we've seen since the height of lockdown. And I discussed this with Make UK, an organisation that represents manufacturing bodies, as you know. And what we talked about was the impact on jobs overall when the manufacturing sector starts to find things hard. Here they are.
I mean,
let's just listen to them.
Often not focused on enough is the full-time multiplier effect of what manufacturing jobs create in a wider economy. It's easily around 1.9 to 2 in terms of for every manufacturing job within the economy, what other service jobs that stimulates. And without a domestic production base, the amount of service jobs within the economy will tumble and fall. It cannot be solely based, the UK services economy, on external and financial markets, as so many of these service roles are dependent on a domestic production capability.
Point there being, Esther and Phil, that when manufacturing stalls, it means that there are and jobs are lost in manufacturing. Unemployment's still pretty low in this country. But once manufacturing starts to really have a hard time, it's those knock-on jobs in the service sector that support manufacturing. And that's the fear here, that if manufacturing really gets walloped, not least because we're still coming out of lockdown, logistics across the world are still struggling to catch up with where they were prior to lockdown, then we could see unemployment starting to hit the headlines again.
So we've got the autumn statement next week. Obviously, we're expecting severe tax rises, severe spending cuts. That's what we've all been told to expect, which is presumably going to make the economic situation harder. Are the Treasury engaging in expectation management here? So pretending it's going to be really, really dire, and then when we hear it, we're going to say, oh, it wasn't that bad after all, or is it going to be as bad as it's being billed?
I think there is some expectation management going on. You've got a lot of advisors around the Chancellor and the Prime Minister talking to their mates in the press and saying it's going to be terrible. And so if it's a bit less terrible, then we think we've got off lightly. It's politics 101. I totally disapprove of that kind of expectations management. When you start saying things in the press, it impacts investment decisions. It's really bad for business sentiment. This isn't a game. This is people's lives and livelihoods. What I would say, though, is I think that we're going to see stealth taxes emerging big time next Thursday on the 17th of November. We're going to see thresholds frozen, particularly on inheritance tax and income tax, dragging more people on modest incomes with very, very modest houses they want to pass on to their kids